welcome to our show. We're going to kick it in the knees, kick it in the shins, we're going to kick it in the ankles, and we're going to get going. I'm going to hit our little sting thing, Paul. What do you say?
We're going to be really mean to our own content.
There you go. Let's be mean to our content. Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Pretty good. And we're going to talk to you all about movies that we wish we'd seen in the cinema, but we didn't get to see in the cinema or theatre. And we really want to hear from you what movies you would really like to have seen in the cinema that you didn't. There was an easier way to explain that, Paul. Would you like to have a go?
Hey, so we're not that old, so we haven't seen a lot of films that came out in the theatre that we loved. So this is our list of movies we'd love to have been there, like when they were in the cinema.
Yeah, and look, let's set some ground rules. This isn't, I'd like to see Star Wars now in IMAX. This isn't one of those. It's, you missed it at the chance. There's all sorts of reasons. You could have been born too late. You could have gone to the wrong movie and found out years later that the thing that was on in the other screen was the one you really should have gone to that night. There are all sorts of reasons that people miss out. Sometimes it's age. Sometimes it's just bad decisions. Because I know there's a few that I should have seen that I didn't. I had plenty of opportunity. Paul, the reason this kind of came up is because everybody knows 12 Angry Men, my favorite film of all time. So that's not going to make this list, even though I'd love to go back. Jaws is one of my other favorite films. And it was re-released in theaters here not too long ago. And I got to go see it. And that was quite nice for me.
Yeah, good. Well done.
Yeah.
Kudos.
Well, and if you would like a bit more juice on the bone of that, I went to see Jaws and I had the best cinema experience ever up until someone got really drunk in the cinema, fell down the stairs and cut their head open, started bleeding everywhere, and had another person who was sharing the theater with us, who was like me, really there to see Jaws, basically throw them out the doors to the ushers. Like, picked up the injured person, was like, wow. We're watching Jaws, get the hell out of here. Why did you get drunk in a cinema? So there's an anecdote you weren't expecting.
No, it wasn't. No, I thought it was just going to be clear sailing and you had a great time, but no, that took a left turn.
It
did. Kicking someone injured out of the door.
At the start of Act 3, it became a 4D experience because there was clattering and banging of, air canisters on the boat, and then there were clatter and banging of what turned out to be a really inebriated person who brought whiskey into the cinema and decided to get completely toasted. Odd choice. Not where I would go to get drunk.
The only way that would have been better is if the person stood up and went, I got attacked by the shark. Because then all the audience could have gone, aha, funny joke, get out.
No, instead they injured themselves, what seemed to be relatively badly, and they were looked after by the cinema people. We did check. But we were also a room full of people around my age and older who were kind of going, I really love Jaws and wish I'd seen it in the cinema. So here we are, folks. We want to hear from you about what you wish you'd seen in the cinema first time around. Paul, Jaws is that obvious one. I'm going to start using the ability to show graphics, which I've had this entire time. But there's a few other obvious ones. Star Wars, I mentioned.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park is a big one.
Yep.
I just missed out on seeing Jaws. I'm not going to give my age away. Anybody thinks I am. I just missed out on Star Wars. And let's face it, being in a room with that opening scene, big ship, little ship, big ship. What a great moment to be in the cinema.
You would have, I think you would have, I thought, like, if you were to watch it, and also having the knowledge of essentially like a cinema goer kind of thing, you would know that this is cinema moment kind of thing. It's going to be,
Well, and that's where Jurassic Park comes in, because I did get to see it in the cinema. And it was magical. It really was. Except my little anecdote there is my sister, who I went with, said, oh, I hear it's like there's real live dinosaurs in the room with you. And I went seeing it thinking, are we watching a 3D movie? And I was waiting for that. Like, is this going to be one of those things where she heard somebody dresses up as a dinosaur and runs in? Like, is there promotional weirdness? Oh. It was the way she expressed it. I was like, what are you talking about? Oh, it's just really visually impressive. Right. Oh. So I watched it and I was blown away. But the entire time there was a small part of me waiting for somebody to run in a dinosaur costume.
So you were expecting, like, there's like Universal Studios like 4D like thing. Yeah. You were just like, oh, like Arnie will run in and
Yeah. Oh, you've seen that one too. Yeah.
yeah, T2, yeah, or
yeah.
it was T3 at the time.
Yeah. Did they call it right
Oh,
T3000 or something like that?
yeah, it was 2000, and I think it was like T1 or like T2.5 was eventually it was changed to, because it was just like, we might make another one, so we can't really call this like Terminator 3, and then they did, which was a mistake.
It's so true. Paul, I'm gonna rearrange my screen in a moment so I can actually see some comments. But just before I do, before we read any comments, I want to remind everybody, and Paul, this will be a reminder for you also. There is an age difference between us, and what you think of as the TV that you saw some of your favorite movies on as a kid,
Yeah,
is so much better than the TV I saw movies when I was a kid. And I would like to draw your attention, if you can see the screen. I know it's on a delay for you, Paul, but I'm hoping you can see a little old bulbous fronted 25-inch TV was huge back then, and you sat quite a long way away from it with your entire family squeezed onto the one couch that you had or could afford. There was no remote control for the TV that we had. There was me. I was the youngest. Get up and change the channel. We had 6 channels, but there was also that little panel up in the top right with the logo. That was the speaker, folks. So to say that going to the cinema, even before Dolby, before 5.1, before sound bars and all that stuff at home, we had essentially one really bad, buzzy, behind a bit of like metal and wood veneer speaker. So going to the cinema really did change everything about a movie.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see. Like, yeah, I think I had a similar enough TV to you when I was a kid, that like it would be maybe a little bit bigger, but not that much difference kind of thing. But yeah, probably when I got into the prime kind of age of being able to watch films and stuff like that as a child, yeah, we had a way better TV.
Did you at least have stereo? Like,
yeah, we did.
More than one speaker, because that's. I look back fondly. I remember all the wonderful movies I watched, but my gosh, oh my gosh. So Paul, what are you glad that you did get to see in the cinema?
Well, okay.
I've got some imagery based on what you sent, so I'll throw them all up together, okay?
Yeah, so the Prestige was one of them, just because it was one of those great cinematic reveals. I've never seen a magic trick done by cinema.
Great way of putting it.
Tron Legacy was just a visual, like, lovely piece of like, I know that people give it a lot of like guff about how good it is and stuff like that, but it is a beautiful film, and mixed in with the audio and stuff like that, it is absolutely great. I really enjoyed that film, just from the visuals and audio kind of cue. But Iron Man was like, the reason I'm really happy to see that is the start of like an entire cinema era.
Yeah. One that's still continuing just about phase 4.
Yeah, like, but it was the start of something just absolutely amazing that I don't think we've seen a lot of. I don't think we've ever seen, kind of thing in cinema history. I don't think we've ever seen essentially a TV show cinemized.
Well, I'm leaving. Cinemized is a thing. There are 3 great picks. Now, I'm lucky enough to have seen all 3 of those in the cinema also. And I think they're great. If you hadn't chosen them, I would have chosen at least 2 out of those 3, as I'm really glad that I was alive and made the right choice to go into the theater to see them. I think Iron Man is one of those. There will be people, and Iron Man will be an obvious answer 30 years from now. When people are saying, when someone else is doing this, stealing our idea in 30 years' time, I think Iron Man will be on that list. But Tron, my God, visuals, sound, the works. Yeah, they're great picks, Paul. Great picks. Because the ones I'm glad of, which, it's pretty obvious. It's already been put in the comments that Quiet Place is an obvious one. Well, The Quiet Place is a very, very obvious one. But
yeah, like it's an absolute like cinema experience. It could like you get mini experience of it if you watch it alone, like, or not alone, but if you watch it with friends, like at home. But being in the cinema was a completely different story. Like, yeah, you have your nacho story. We have those people who are like down the next row where we were just like, we could hear them kind of going, opening the bag and then going, and then like, you know, not like, I've never seen someone buy a bunch of stuff for a cinema adventure and then not eat it
Yeah,
because they were just like monsters, like,
I know.
which is just great.
You know, the weird thing is, and I have a little representation of cheesy nachos because I did the long-standing tradition with me and my partner is we will not have dinner and we'll go to the cinema sometimes. So I'll be like, right, I'm having the nachos for dinner because they're super bad for you. They just are, but it's fun sometimes. So on occasion, I'll be like, yeah, we didn't have dinner, so I'm getting the nachos. This is going to be good. Yeah, The Quiet Place. I left that film amazed and hungry because the first bite I tried to take after, like whatever I got in during the trailers, is what I ate. And by the time the film was done, there was a lump of hard cheese with some kind of stegosaurus things sticking out of it because that's all that was really left. Funny thing though about the other two that I picked, I think they're on a lot of people's lists who got to see them because you got to see Dread 3D in
Yeah.
the cinema.
Yeah. It was the reason I didn't put it on my list was because I saw it on your list and was just like,
same
glad one of us did. So
exactly, there's definitely crossover between me and Paul and just about everything that we ever pick. So we do have to compare notes, or else we'd be showing you the same stuff. But Dread 3D, for anybody who hasn't seen it, if you've seen it on ATV without 3D, I'm not crazy about 3D movies, Paul, but this movie made 3D such a part of it, and seeing it in decent cinematic 3D was incredible and a huge part of the actual story and how they told the story and how they shot the story. It's on my list always as the number one pick when someone says, if you could rent out an IMAX or, you know, big screen, what film would you bring all your friends to see? I always say Dread 3D. Now, Top Gun Maverick, because I know a lot of people who were silly and missed it recently, I feel bad for them. I hope they get to see that in a big screen someday, but it's still Dread 3D for me.
Oh, couldn't agree more. Like the slow mo shots with slow mo, like and the 3D kind of things. It's just an incredible like feast for the eyes.
And anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, go watch that movie. Terminator 2, I think is pretty obvious. I was at the right age. I went to see it. I absolutely was so excited to see it that, you know, I went with a bunch of friends. I'm from the country. We'd all get a bus to go to the next nearest. Like we had to organize a bus. There was no like bus service. So us country folk all piled into a bus to go to the town that had a cinema, went to see it, and it was the first time I remember telling people to shut up that were with me. Because I was like, I am into this so much right now. And, you know, like the liquid metal effects that people saw in Abyss, I guess, first. But T2 took things to the next level. It was just a visual feat in a brilliant sci-fi story.
Yeah, I think the thing with the visuals on the metal like thing was the fact that Abyss had it underwater and kind of dark. Because obviously everybody, if you've seen any Marvel film from essentially Phase 3, you definitely understand this. It's a lot easier to do visuals in darkness. So Terminator 2 to do like liquid metal in like a lot of like bright areas essentially was just incredible. And the scene that I love the most about that, which I would have loved to have seen, would be when he's cryogenically, or not cryogen, but he was liquid nitrogen frozen, and it's like coming together.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
It really did, like a very simple effect of them rolling some mercury along, but it looked awesome. I have to say that's one of those ones I just feel privileged that I got to go and see because, it was lucky, right time, right place. So, Paul, I'm going to, just before we throw into some of our others, I'm going to say that we do a really quick review of some comments. So I can see Quiet Place is an obvious one, Jaws 2. Well, thanks, Brew. I am an obvious person. Or is getting a mention in All Quiet in the Western Front that we're on streaming. I have to watch Or and All Quiet. But Or keeps getting talked to me about, so I'm definitely going to make time to watch that soon. If you watched it yet, I believe it's from, it's not Bollywood, or maybe it is Bollywood, but I believe it's an Indian production. And it's meant to be a mental action movie, just complete crazy.
I have not heard of it, no. So, but now it's been told to me, so now I'm going to go check it out.
The second thing everybody always says to me is, Aurora is great, you should watch it. It's 3 hours, though. So I'm like, okay. Hence why I haven't got to it just yet.
Yeah, I know.
that can happen. So Pop Culture says Return of the Jedi Special Edition saw the first two, but got in trouble and grounded and missed the return. Oh, wow.
Oh,
I got to see Return of the Jedi. I didn't get to see the first two. Start A New Hope, episode 4, because of age, and then just I don't know what my sisters chose that we were going to go and see instead of Empire. But I'm sure it was something that nobody's talking about right now. When I wish I got to see Empire in a cinema.
Cinema didn't break the bank either. My mom would drop me off in the morning. Yeah, no, yeah. I got dropped off a couple of times for the cinema as well. Batman Begins, Jurassic Park, and Apollo 13. They're all great choices. Batman, I've seen. Actually, this is interesting. Batman Begins, I've seen all three of them in the cinema, obviously.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park, I didn't get to see in the cinema.
Oh.
But for some reason, Apollo 13, I did.
Huh. I have seen all of those in the cinema, and I'm kind of glad I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jurassic...
Apollo 13 is another good one, actually.
Yeah, it is. I think the only reason I didn't think about it was because, I've seen it. Jurassic Park was an interesting one because at the time it came out, I think my parents were just like, dinosaurs eating people. You're too young, kind of thing. And I was just like, yeah, sure, I'm watching The Poltergeist.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not sleeping ever again. Every time a TV goes on to static, you're like, oh, they've come for me.
Yeah. Ghostbusters, God, I would have loved to have watched that.
Yeah, that obviously would make my list, but it hasn't because I restricted myself from picking anything in my favorite movies list. And then I broke that rule too, as you'll see in a second.
I did similar to that as well. Ghostbusters was fairly good. Gremlins, funny enough, this is the origins of me becoming a horror fan was Gremlins. Got terrified, couldn't sleep for 2 weeks after that. Was just traumatized enough to love monsters.
Brilliant.
So yeah,
we're pulling some deep personal references tonight between Drunk Guys and Jaws cinemas, and the reason that you're a horror dude is actually Gremlins, which is one of my favorite movies. And didn't turn me towards horror at all.
Not a horror film, but when you watch it at a young age and then you're like, Gremlins are everywhere. And then eventually after 2 weeks, you're kind of like, just like, Gremlins are everywhere. So you're just like, yay.
Gremlins had enough. I was at the age where it had enough to give me the kind of the now and again. Probably that ending scene more than anything else. But my gosh, Poltergeist. I'm not gonna lie, I still have to think long and hard every time I watch it now. I'm like, okay, is there enough time before bed for me to shake this one off? Poltergeist is a pure classic for making me not feel comfortable in my own home.
I watched it. Yeah, Poltergeist was after when I watched the Gremlins kind of thing. So
yeah.
The Matrix. So The Matrix is an interesting one. You'll hear more about that later on. Avatar, I got to see it on a massive fucking screen and it was absolutely great. Could not, pardon my language, could not recommend it. I hate the story, but yeah, no, it was great.
I got to see it in IMAX 3D as well. Went to the biggest screen I could, and I'll be honest with you, I came out of it going, okay. Avatar has never connected with me for whatever reason. It's not a good story. It's got all sorts of problems, but I will admit that some of the visuals were impressive, but yet I don't know why the visuals didn't connect with me, whereas Dread 3D, the visuals did connect with me. I guess it's how you use it as part of the story. Also, I might just be a curmudgeonly bugger.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think so. Titanic. Titanic was good. I got to see that. I was forced to watch that, so I have some trauma there as well. My mom was just like, I don't have anyone else to go with, so you're coming with me.
I saw Titanic twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, Paul? We'll come back to some comments because I'm dying to get on to.
Yeah.
Well, how about we take first one from you because it's one that was on my list, so I vicariously get to pick it by you picking it. It's great.
Well, yeah. So it's Aliens.
Absolutely,
is the first one. Yeah, I couldn't now. Like, okay, I would have chosen Alien because of that sort of like the moment in history of Kane getting the chest burster coming out. But I think we've all agreed that Aliens is the best of the bunch, like of a really good bunch. But
and it's Aliens cinema moments. It's just chock full of cinema moments. Whereas Alien, I'm okay that I watched that on VHS at home, and it scared the crap out of me and my family because it was dark say, TV room and you're watching it all together on a way too small TV, and it was scary. But Aliens, I missed that in the cinema too. Like an idiot, I missed it in the cinema. And so many great cinema moments, like walking out with the loader. Come on.
Oh yeah, no, it's one of it's the most quotable out of the series, which just already tells you how good the cinematic moments were. So
Yeah.
yeah, could not. Really wish I watched that just because it would have been a fantastic. So the reasoning behind it is just it's a cinema history moment of kind of really good like moments that have been parodied and like used up and constantly like everywhere. So like I it would have been fantastic to see that firsthand in a cinema. Now
Yeah.
I have gotten to see it in a cinema later on, but nothing like having a group of people who've never seen it before kind of watching it together going, yeah.
Oh, the gasp moments followed by the yeah moments, like it's a perfect pick for what we're talking about, because at the time, nobody having seen it, but the first film having such a good reputation and at the time a decent following, or even a cult following, I guess. Oh wow, like come on. Yeah, I would definitely jump in the time machine and go for that one too.
Hmm,
Actually, speaking of which, how about I throw one in?
go for it.
Time machine being the hint, everybody. I got to see Back to the Whoops. Well, that was a whoops. I put up the wrong image there. Back to the Future. Uh, Sorry about my fingers, everybody. I click on the wrong thing every single time. I got to see Back to the Future 2 in a cinema. And Back to the Future 2 was my first cinema experience. It was in the Savoy big screen in Dublin. First time I'd heard big city proper surround sound. And there's a bit in it where one of Biff's boys, is drinking outside the school and throws a glass bottle and it smashed over my shoulder. And I remember thinking, cinema's changed for me forever. I'm now into sound, not into visuals. But that was Back to the Future 2. I did not get to see Back to the Future 1. And the reason, other than it being a classic, other than it being a brilliant moment in cinema history, other than it having a brilliant story and so many cinematic moments, it's the ending. It's that I cannot conceive what it would have been like to be in a cinema full of people who'd never seen that story, never experienced it, and then where we're going, we don't need roads. Because the child who's still in me would have practically been standing on the seat by the time the DeLorean took off, but then to have it turn around and fly square into the camera, I'm probably lucky I didn't see it, because I would have, I don't know, had a heart attack or just really annoyed somebody by jumping all over their seat. Because it's one of those things. I would love to have been there for the whole movie, but I would love to have felt how that room felt when it ended.
Like that would yeah, it like once again, it's another pop culture kind of staple in life. So like yeah, it's just it would have been just magical to see it firsthand.
Yeah.
You know?
And the reason that I accidentally had the Holy Grail up there is it's a little honorable mention at this moment for me for saying, hey, if I wanted to be there at the end of any other film that wasn't Back to the Future, I'd choose the Holy Grail. Because the anger some people have towards how it ends. Spoiler alert for a 40-year-old movie. Yes, close your ears now if you don't want to know how the Holy Grail ends. It has a fourth wall break that is just ludicrous. So Python-esque, so wonderful. And I know, and I mean it to this day, people who are like, oh, I love Monty Python, but I hate that film because of what they did at the end. I would have loved to have been in that cinema. I would love to have been in that foyer, the walkout, when people are talking about what they thought of the movie and you get to hear everybody else. Oh man, because I would have been going, that was the best thing ever. And I'm sure there would have been people looking at me going, what kind of idiot are you?
Oh yeah, you would have gotten the split. You would have gotten the people who are Monty Python fans who are just like, that was amazing. And then people who are just like going to see it because they've been told by their Monty Python friends to go see it. And they would have been like, what the hell was that?
Get yourself in our comments there, folks. Let us know. End of Monty Python Holy Grail. If you've seen it, are you positive or negative about it? All right, Paul, I'm gonna cut myself off before I squeeze too much out. Which of yours would you like next? Oh, sorry.
The first time I saw that was just like, what the? And then I saw, like, I think it was because it was the first movie I saw of Monty Python. It was the first thing I saw of Monty Python.
Brilliant. So, oh, what a
obviously
start.
I was just like, what the? But yeah.
You know what? If I was going to suggest somebody see one thing as the first thing they ever see a Python, it sets them up very well. Yeah. Like, you get to see every dimension of their utter genius wrapped in utter madness.
It
So,
is true.
Paul, what would you like?
So the next one I pick is for experience is the Blair Witch Project.
Ooh,
Um,
I didn't see it, by the
y-
way. Didn't see it in the cinema. Made that mistake.
yeah, I didn't see it either, but like even in Ireland, we got the whole like pure stunt kind of thing going on. We got the whole like, we got the news thing of 3 kids going missing, all this kind of stuff. Like, they were like the whole hoax kind of like PR was amazing, and to go watch it, and like you would have a fee because like I have friends who've gone to see us, who got to go see us and stuff like that. But yeah, their whole thing was when they were walking into the cinema, it was getting tense, and I've never experienced a movie where it was getting tense while walking into the cinema. Like you could just
Yeah.
feel it, and then just having everybody just go mental about the whole series and stuff, or the whole movie would have been amazing. Like, and then to find out that it was an entire hoax, you would have just been like, that is amazing. Like it was an amazing PR stunt. Like after you've watched it in the cinema, that would have been amazing. But yeah.
I have an admission. I still haven't seen it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's one of
It's
those ones that I really should get around to, but I've never found a reason to. Because people are always like, "Yeah, it's good, but it's not that good." I guess in retrospect, I'm like, "Well, it seemed like a pretty big deal. I should probably watch it just anyway."
in the movie genre of found footage thing. It's one of the best.
Okay, well, it
Kind of
kicked
thing.
that whole wave off quite strongly, I guess.
Yeah.
Cloverfield was, I guess, the next big budget cash in on it.
Would that yeah, like that was probably the next one to kind of go mix the two genres together, which is like, Hollywood action with found footage kind of movie style.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, just to have a whole bunch of people just kind of going, because you'd be approaching us from the view of a Netflix documentary. Essentially, that's the best way to describe it nowadays. If you were all watching essentially a Netflix documentary in the cinema,
And
that's what it would be like.
that's a real shame, actually, because you've just made me realize stuff like that won't get a cinema release ever again. Probably it's all just straight to streaming. In fact, I went to see Glass Onion, Knives Out 2, in the cinema, which it was only going to be out for 2 weeks, and it's out on Netflix, I think, next week or week after. I'm really glad that I went to the cinema to see it. There are some of these things that you watch on Netflix and you kind of go, if they put that in the cinema, I would have enjoyed it there. So I'm
Yeah.
starting to be one of those people who's like, if they release it for a week, I might see it in the cinema just in case.
I'll definitely try.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's actually quite good. My 1-word review or 2-word review, quite good. Yeah. So Paul, Blair Witch is it's a good call because for me, I'm going back. I said I wouldn't pick my top 2 or 3 favorite movies. Well, I'm cutting it close here with Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But I think anybody who's seen our Steven Spielberg episode, linked somewhere hopefully, or just search it on our page. What can you say about Close Encounters as far as a cinema experience? Visuals, yeah. Performances, yeah. But that ending where you've got visuals and an audio element of playing the keys, do 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 do, brr, having that in cinema sound, particularly one big tromboned low note at one point, which still gets me on a decent TV. I love it every time. It's a great movie. It's a great piece of cinema history. It checks every single box, and it's not an action movie, which is kind of crazy. So it's kind of outstanding on its own that it checks everything that Terminator 2 has without being an action movie. So it's pretty impressive.
It's great. The visuals, once again, visuals are really good. As you said, there's some classic actors in there. This is like even from Jaws as well. Which was, and then just the visuals, man, it would just be incredible. And then the cinema moment that when you watch it, you're just like, this is going to be on lists for years.
Yeah,
kind of thing. So,
like, I have a huge soft spot for Richard Dreyfuss, obviously enough, and I've had arguments with people who didn't think his performance was all that. It was. There's so many amazing performances in that movie. So there you go, Paul. That was me squeezing in a little bit of a cheeky one. It's not in my top 3 movies of all time. I didn't,
it's close though.
It's bloody close. So another one that I would have picked if you had not, except I got to see it in the cinema. Sixth Sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's
you didn't get to see that in the cinema. Damn it.
No, so it's my last. Yeah, my last pick is Sixth Sense, and it's because that I got to watch it on my own at home, DVD kind of thing in my like little kind of room, and like experiencing the fact that the realization of essentially that you know, he's dead. And he's a ghost and he's a psychologist and stuff like that was just incredible that I was just like, man, if I had seen that in the cinema and have essentially an entire cinema intake of breath, like Quiet Place, there's everybody going, kind of that realization. It's only the only time that I've experienced something close to it is in The Raid, where a guy falls off a balcony and breaks his neck, and the entire cinema went, ugh, but realizing that Sixth Sense, which is that Bruce Willis was dead, would have been just incredible. I can see that there's some kind of
just taking care of it now.
Yeah, which is it's just another cinema moment that's just incredible. Which would be more about the audience itself seeing that part would have been incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't want to rub it in, but it was. It's one of those things. It's like The Usual Suspects. I remember hearing people kind of going, "Oh," or there was definitely, penny dropping moments. If that's the right way to put it, the penny was dropping as a collective group of people in a room. So yeah, it is what you think it was. Like that was a memorable one.
Yeah, like it's all around the world. Like and also, once again, it's all parodied and stuff like that again.
It scared people who don't find that to be a scary movie. There are moments in that scared the shit out of me. I'm not saying it's a terrifying movie, but there are just moments of like,
There's jump scare moments that I definitely got caught by, which is interesting because I don't try to get caught by them anymore. But yeah. There's
Haley Joel Osment and those cute little eyes. That'll keep you. Oh, what's he gonna say next? Oh, there's a dead person behind him. What the hell?
Yeah, that little girl. Never mind.
I know that you're talking about scary stuff.
Yeah.
So Paul, do we have? Yeah, we do. 2 minutes. I am going to tell you what my final pick was, and then we'll go to a little ad break, and then we can wrap it all up. So I'm doing this the hard way, Paul. I'm telling you what I didn't pick. My third pick is definitely going to be 2001: Space Odyssey. And I went, no, can't, no. It's got to be Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And in the end, I said no to both. And I said, I'm going to take Once Upon a Time. Whoops. Once Upon a Time in the West, and it's not showing up properly. Okay, there we go. There's a problem with our visual, but I'm going to fix it on the fly.
So now
I'm going to run out of time.
Yeah. Let's go for a break and then we'll come back to it.
We'll go for a break and I'll fix the technical issue. We'll see you very soon. Thanks. There was Homebrew Quest. Hang on, that doesn't make any sense. Let me start again. YouTube is great for watching Hear Us Out, but what if you'd like a bit of D&D in your life? Homebrew Quest are a bunch of brilliantly creative Irish folks playing a homebrew Dungeons & Dragons campaign inspired by Irish mythology. But even more inspired by the brews they're drinking in each episode. Ireland's supposed to be the land of saints and scholars, but it's also got drinkers and YouTubers, one of which might look a tad familiar. So get yourself over to Homebrew Quest and join the adventure. Links in the description down below, or search term Homebrew Quest. Tell them Hear Us Out sent you.
Which is thanks for watching that little thing. I think it was the Homebrew Quest one, which was a fantastic little thing. Which is thanks for making it, Patrick.
No problem.
Welcome.
Thanks for being great in it, Paul.
Can't not be that.
I don't know what's going on with this particular OBS, but right now it has a glitch, and I'd have to shut it all down for things to appear where they should. So you're only getting the top half of the Once Upon a Time in the West. Yeah. Oh, I know what I can do. There we go. Unlock everything. All right. This is kind of gonna work. Kind of, sort of gonna work.
This is gonna be magic.
There we go, folks. Professionalism as always. Once Upon a Time in the West. What you can see here is the reason I decided after going 2001 to Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is, okay, well, what do you want to see in a cinema? You want to see cinematography. You want to see beautiful, amazing, well-composed shots. You want to see camera changes and moves, and you want to experience all that. Well, dude, Once Upon a Time in the West, every time I see it on a TV, I think, what would that have been like the first time? Because there are so many close-ups, there are so many standoffs, there are so many just beautiful vistas. Every frame a painting. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Just the opening alone.
The opening alone. So, for me, it's not even about sharing it with other people, but it's experiencing that and being like, wow, this is what cinema is going to be doing with color and all the rest. I think it's a masterpiece. It's not one of my top 3 or 4 or even 5 favorite films of all time. It's one of my favorites. So it squeezes in under the not picking favorites rule.
This is your greedy pick. This is like Aliens for me. This is the one where it's like, this is just for me kind of thing, which is just, you just get to revel in how good you feel, like how good it is.
That's exactly it. And for anybody who's out there that's absolutely crazy and has not got to see Once Upon a Time in the West, now that you've seen me try and get some shots of it up at some point, trust me, you will not be sorry that you saw it. Because even if the story, which is good, even if all of the other parts of filmmaking don't grab you, and they will, you are going to be glad that you've seen it. It is absolutely visually stunning.
And heard a lot of it.
This is very, very true, actually. I shouldn't undersell that. So, Paul, you have a few more honourable mentions. I'm gonna cede the floor to you. I'll throw them up. So
I'm going to do it in reverse order because I think the last one's an interesting one for you as well.
I threw all 3 up at once.
Yeah,
My fault.
That's still fine. That's still fine. So Tron, obvious reasons. Like it's such an amazing kind of like, once again, visual kind of thing from back in the day kind of thing. Iron Giant, it's one of my favorite films. It's my favorite animated film. I've never gotten to see it in the cinema, which I just love to. I found out that one of my partner's work colleagues has gotten to work with the director now, so which is incredible. And in The Matrix, and the reason I put The Matrix in was because it's one that you've seen in the cinema. Well, I know that you've seen other ones, but everybody keeps saying about how The Matrix is the one film that you have to see in the cinema. I got to see it on DVD at my friend, at a friend's house. This is an interesting story. Did not know this film existed. My friends were just like
crazy.
Yeah, so when I first watched it, it was my friends going, "Oh, Paul, you haven't heard of this film? You're gonna love it. You love sci-fi." And then I watched it completely cold. Had never heard of this movie at all.
Oh my god!
So it absolutely blew my mind watching it on it on a TV.
That's like Mike Tyson punching you with your eyes closed. That is just.
It was
brilliant. I'm sure you got one of the most unique experiences outside of a cinema, let's say, that anybody has had.
Yeah, which is the only reason that I would have loved to watch it. It's an honorable mention. I would have loved to watch it in the cinema because I know it's on so many people's lists kind of thing. And because of the unique experience that I got, I'm like, oh, I wish I got that type of experience, but in the cinema. I would have just cried.
Well, other than the people trying to spam our chat, which is going to help you find your perfect match or your mega companion or some stuff, I got to say, Paul, I did get to see it in the cinema, and again, it's on that super memorable list. Weirdly, because the age I was old enough to be smarter than this, but I was young enough to be this dumb. Straight away, I was like, I want one of those Nokia phones, and I wonder if I'm tall enough for a 3/4 length leather. I want to know if I can pull off the trench. Um, it was nuts. It just blew me away in the cinema. And sister's boyfriend at the time, mad sci-fi guy, he hadn't seen it, so I was like, "You got to see this movie," and I went with him. So I saw
Oh, great.
back when I couldn't afford to see a movie once. I found money and probably didn't eat the bread and beans to see it twice. It was every bit as good as you think, except I had expectation going in, so you got to see it with nothing. That's
Clean.
nuts, man. That is absolutely crazy. Comment down below if you've ever been lucky enough to have that experience on an amazing film. I had it once, a film called Shine. Went to see something else. It was fully booked out. Never heard of this movie called Shine. Went into the cinema to see it. It is now, it's my spirit animal in a film. It is easily, it'll never make any of these lists that I say I can't pick one of my favorite films, because it's easily one of my favorite films. But yeah, have just going in cold, knowing nothing, and then it made me changed me as a person and made me cry. But The Matrix, that must have peeled your eyelids back. And were you looking at people in the room going, did you know? Did you, like,
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing, is everybody else knew about this film. Like, everybody else in the room was just like, wait a minute, you haven't heard of this film? And I was just like, no, not at all. And it's just like, you're that weird kid who keeps bringing up, like, some weird, like, sci-fi that no one has ever heard, like, Toxic Avenger and stuff like that. And I'm just like, yep, never heard of this one. So yeah, it was a fantastic non-cinema moment, I guess would be the best kind of thing. I've only ever gotten it with Frozen as well. That's the only other film that I've ever went to see Frozen. Was just like, what's this about? And my partner went, ice. And then I was just like, well, I'm not talking to you for the rest of the film because you're just being smart.
She's not
Also,
wrong though. You can't fault her there. She was definitely not wrong. Paul, let's take a moment to say hello to a few people, and then if you so will, we will end this wishing well of wishing we'd seen movies in the cinema.
Of course.
I think we're going to be lucky that the best cinema movie ever made hasn't been made yet, and I believe that the theater still has plenty to offer, more than plenty to offer. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to my next one. I'm always looking forward to my next cinema experience, even if the movie turns out to be crap. It's the hope going in that it would be good.
That's the key to it. Do you go through some of the comments?
Yeah, I'll start at the bottom, and then you can, if you want to look up a bit further. I just caught that Brian said Crouching Tiger was awesome in the big screen. Everybody's picking the films that I have little anecdotes about. Dennis, if you're out there, and Gareth, who used to work with me, both very good friends, and I haven't spoken to you in years. Love you both still. I convinced them to let me pick the movie we were going to go and see. And two more kind of, butch dudes, let's say at the time, good sports players. They were like, okay, you're going to pick a movie. I said Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and they in their head thought like Shanghai Noon or something. They thought Jackie Chan movie. Went in, sat down, watched it. It ended. I came out and I was like, God, it was brilliant, wasn't it? And they both looked at me and went, subtitles, and what the hell? And I was sitting there for the first 20 minutes and I was waiting to see them go. And meanwhile, back in New York, they genuinely thought that like for about 10 or 15 minutes, they were waiting for it to turn into the Jackie Chan movies that they'd been seeing. But they both did end up admitting that it was great. It just, good. I had maybe, I kind of knew what I was doing. I knew that they were expecting a Kung Fu movie where I was like telling them, yes, it had a martial arts for sure.
Yeah, it's martial arts. Yeah. Die Hard with a Vengeance, which good pop culture says that he was very lucky to see a new Die Hard film, which is, even though 4 and 5 came out, but that would have been incredible moment. I'm going to rush through some of these. GoldenEye, I got to see that in the cinema. That was fantastic. It was a great Pierce Brosnan first film. Yeah. Gremlins also terrified Brew. And traumatized his cousin. So maybe maybe Gremlins is the key to a lot of horror film fans' things.
Yeah. Let us know if your cousin's a horror fan too, because I know you watch quite a few.
Pop culture says Tremors made him afraid of open fields, and ooh, okay.
And loose dirt. Oh man, that's funny. I love that. Where I'm from. Tremors would have been a problem, except there's rocks everywhere. So I would have been like, I can climb up and make myself safe. What a great movie, by the way. Everybody watch Tremors.
Yeah, it is. Kevin Bacon's great in it. When did you watch Alien and Aliens? Like, can I say I saw my 11-year-old son? My wife says no. I saw it. I saw Alien when I was 12, and I think I saw Aliens when I was 14. Because I've only found out that it had a kind of sequel thing.
I was much younger for both, and I'm not going to shame my parents because I was watching stuff at 6 that I shouldn't have been watching at 16. But the dawn of the VHS tape, they were like, we paid for this. We're putting this thing in. We rented it from the big shop that rents things, and we're all going to sit down and watch this. And it didn't matter what kind of movie it was. You all sat through it. And now I was lucky enough to love some of the stuff that I shouldn't have been watching. But yeah, if my sisters got to pick a movie, I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those nights.
No, that's yeah. I definitely understand that. We got another Back to the Future. We got everything that James Cameron has done. I don't fully agree with that, but like,
a good selection of his movies. To be fair, yeah,
yeah. We could see Citizen Kane for the first time.
That would be interesting
ever, like as in, like when it just came out. That would have been great. Yeah, it's one of those kind of.
It's revolutionary in its cinematic techniques.
Yeah. And then we got a lot of love for the Blair Witch Project, which is great. Which was, it's a very, very good film to kind of have for your one of your cinema experiences and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Paul, with your kind permission, what do you say we say thanks to the folks at home and remind everybody to like, subscribe, comment down below. Most importantly, share it out if you can. We would love you to tell your friends, share it with other people, send them a link even if they didn't ask for it. You never know. Just ask your friends, what did they wish they'd seen in the cinema? And see if they'll comment down below. Because I would love to hear some really interesting answers. And we do love to have a dialogue with you, the fine people who give your time to listen to us waffle. Paul, this waffle has been great fun.
I hope I brought manic energy to this episode.
Absolutely. Well, everybody got a bonus anecdote every third movie we talked about tonight. So it's a good one.
That is true.
All right, folks, join us next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. You don't get to see us in theaters yet, but if you could support us, then maybe we'll make it there someday. So with that, I have been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
And we've been Hear Us Out. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Support your local cinema. Bye.